little bit of a time, man. A little bit of a time. It's Christmas Eve today, as they say. And I am so excited for it to be fucking over. I'm so excited. I'm going to rant a little bit, but then I got to get into the topic. Man, working in retail and dealing with fucking people and their attitudes and their rushing around and their slamming their asses and shit. I am so happy for it to be over. I am fucking tired of these goddamn holidays. For me, it just brings out so much phoniness. Okay. No more of that. So I got another typewriter. It's a Hermes 2000, and I named it Colto just because it's the way it sounds when I type. It's reminiscent of the speech of those. If you played Star Wars KOTOR, I forgot what they're called, the Menanon or the Manon. There's these strange water-like beings that when they speak, it just kind of has that vibe, so I called it Colto. Now, as I'm typing on it, it occurred to me to begin the process of writing Dove's next part of his adventure of the Forgotten series. And I've had multiple conversations. I've had 3 conversations with some people, and they really kind of in their way helped me see what I need to do. And the major theme to the conversations was death. So last week, what's today? Today is Tuesday. So last week on Wednesday, I had to go and see he's my step-grandfather. He married my grandmother back in like 1993, and they bought a house and blah, blah, blah. And, well, he was dying in hospice. A few days before that, he just was unconscious, and she had to take him to the hospital. They did a bunch of tests on him. It turns out he's riddled with cancer. And so on last Wednesday, it was Thursday, last Thursday, I went over to see him. And he was in hospice care in a bed. Nurses coming in and out. I don't know if you know what that is, but some people probably do. And I was just kind of watching him die. Unresponsive, labored breathing, just like gaunt, very low oxygen level. He was going. It was clear. There was no, you can pull through, And so I just kind of sat there and watched him, and some of the family came in. They placed the bed in the living room. That was the biggest room that they could put him in. And I just kind of watched him die. And there's a lot of thoughts that came to me, and I talked to 3 people about this, or 4 actually. And I just kind of said my piece about just kind of crazy how the whole life he lived before that, nothing. When you look at this moment here, did any of that matter? For example, he was a Vietnam veteran. He worked for Ford for a long time and retired working from Ford. He's got multiple vehicles. He's got a brand new Corvette. One of those rich guys, right? Like one of those rich baby boomers. Collection of bows, a shit ton of bows, the ones, the compound bows, what do they call them? I don't remember. Shit ton of those. A lot of guns and stuff in his house. He collected guns, and he's one of those guys. He had a custom-made shooting range on his property, inside, heated, and he could shoot, it was like a range, and it went outside and shot in the backyard, so he could just always sit there and shoot his guns and stuff. And he had a lot of wealth. And then as he was laying there dying, riddled with cancer I just kept thinking, what was that all for? Did any of that shit save you? You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just thoughts like that took me. Like, all that fucking shit, and none of that saved you. You liked it. You enjoyed your life, for the most part, I guess. But did it save you? Clearly not. And so, between thoughts like that and just remembering how often he got drunk, he would always get drunk at Christmas parties. I didn't go over very often, but when I did, it was at a party, and he'd always get so drunk he'd pass out in the bed. And if he was doing that at a party, chances are he was doing that a lot. And that tells me he was running from a lot. And I didn't really have much of a relationship with him. You know, he was in the Navy in Vietnam. Pretty sure it was like I think it's the Mekong Delta. Forgive me, I don't really remember the theaters or whatever the fuck they called them back then. I think they're corps. I think the I Corps 2 and 3, 4, you know, they broke up Vietnam in sections and stuff. And I think he was in that, and in those boats, PT boats, I think. And that was some crazy shit. But I remember he used to talk about, the only thing I remember from his experience was he was saying, like, they're getting it on the boats. That's all he kept saying. And then how they would always get high all the time. And somehow, I think because they were always getting high, as according to him, people died or something. And I think he was carrying a lot of fucking, like, darkness or something. He was carrying a lot of fucked up memories and stuff. And so, it was most likely why he was drinking all the time. He wasn't able to process whatever the hell he was going through. That's the only thing I can really tell you about the guy. Other than that, I don't know much. He just kind of lived his own life. He didn't really talk to me. You know, he was in my life for like almost the entirety. I think he married my grandmother a little bit after I was born. So I've known him my whole life, but I don't really know anything about him. Besides that, that's all I can tell you. Other than that, I don't know. He never really made an effort to want to be in my life, so I didn't make one to be in his. But anyway, I still chose to go there and, you know, be there with him. And as I kind of was watching him dying there, those were the thoughts that took me. But another one too. So, you know, there's those, what do they call, the CNAs or whatever, the nurses, and then the nurse assistants and stuff. Well, they would come out periodically, a few times a day, but also my sister came over that day, and my sister is a nursing assistant. She works in an old folks home. So she was able to help the lady. And I kind of got to watch them work a little bit, these two nurses. And my aunt was one too. So it was interesting to see three people all in their element. And I was very keen to see this. I was very like, oh, I gotta see this. And they had to bathe him real quick. They had to administer more morphine. They had to, you know, check his catheter and, you know, all that kind of shit. Change his diaper. And as I was watching just how stiff his body was when they were trying to move him, and the sounds he was making in pain. I mean, he didn't wake up, but you could tell it was very painful, even though he was being pumped full of morphine. And I was like, holy shit. Like, you turned into like such a pathetic thing at the end there. For your whole life trying to be like, I got this, I can do it, I'll take care of everything. The man changed the oil in his cars, he took care of his cars, he did all the work on them, he had his tractor, he did all the shit with his tractor, he had all this land, he was, when the snow came, he would take his tractor out and push it all away, he went on the roof and fixed the roof, like he was like a handyman, right, one of those guys. But all of a sudden now he can't, he's got to be cleaned like a fucking baby again. And I just thought, like, holy shit, that's insane to see that. But I knew I needed to. I needed to get some sober in my life, some reality, because it's so easy to play the fucking games and think this is what life is. That's what, no. I wanted to see death. And my sister told me when we were sitting there a little bit later, she's like, it's incredibly painful in this circumstance, as an old person dying in a bed like this. It's incredibly painful to die. There's a lot of reasons for it. You know, the example I give is like, you're not swallowing spit, so that gets so dry. Your heart has to pump harder, so it hurts more. All your muscles ache and are stiffening. Your body's shutting down. Everything fucking hurts, and it's incredibly painful. And I was like, holy fuck. And this is what I got to look forward to if I don't die traumatically. Like, that's... Unless you get lucky and die in bed. But God knows that could be painful too. We don't even fucking know. And then, so that was swirling in my head a bit. And then I was just watching him, just laying there, just eyes roll the back of his head, mouth breathing intently, like ragged and just irregular, and laying there, running a fever, and just a different color. And I was like, it's like he's being born, is what came to me. Like, as I was watching, I was like, he's being born right now. We're watching the process of him being birthed to the next. So in saying that, the idea came to me, and I don't know about it or anything, but I just kept thinking, what if we have to figure it out? What if right now he's trying to figure out how to die? It's not just a wait and see kind of thing and it takes care of itself. Like, what if there's a little bit more choice in the matter than we like to realize? And not necessarily a choice as in you could choose to stay. Like, no, it's like you need to figure out how to get there. Time's irrelevant. What's 5 minutes of me sitting there watching him could be a lifetime in that state. Almost like a dreamlike state. I don't know. But that's what hit me. Is like, he might be figuring out, okay, how do I shut all this shit down? Because you know how your dreams, when you're having them and you're having bodily issues, those issues turn into things inside of your dreams. At least for me, they do. I'll be having a dream and my stomach ache or my sore throat or whatever it happens to be will be something in the dream that I have to overcome and figure out and be a part of, or to fix, or whatever it is. And I'm like, well, what if that's what's happening in that state? He's trying to shut parts of the body down in his mind. What would be to me a few seconds, to him is like a lifetime. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. It's just something that hit me, something that was very, like, oh, that's curious of a thought. I'm not like going to sit here and like, I'm going to publish a book about this and I'm going to tell you that's what it is. Like, it's just a curious thought that I had as I watched him. Now, he died a few days later. So a few days ago he passed away. Finally. And I don't mean that in like a thank God way. In a sense, it is also kind of thank God because it's painful. Clearly. And so death has been kind of on my mind. Not like dreading it or being afraid of it, but just, dying. Very interesting, you know, like just, what an interesting concept that is to someone in my society who's not really faced with it very much. Not many of us are. There are some that have experienced it, but we're not seeing dead bodies all over our cities. People dying of plagues and, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not really a part of our life. It's very, like, over here out of left field, grandma just died kind of shit. Like, not, yeah, I watched my fucking kids die in my arms because they were riddled with diseases. Like, you know what I mean? We're not faced with it. So it's a little foreign. It's not supposed to be, but it kind of is. So I thought about all that. It was swirling in my head, and I just kind of was very... It put a lot of things into perspective. This might be a long video, so we'll see. When I was, you know, going and seeing him being ill or whatever, I would go back to fucking work. And as of right now, it's holiday time, and the last day I worked was the day before Christmas Eve. And to see that, to have those thoughts and all that shit, and to see your grandmother crying, she was trying to distract herself by baking cakes. And because that's her business, she's a baker. So she makes cakes and does catering and all this and that. And she was filling an order for this guy in the kitchen as her husband was dying in the living room. Just trying to distract herself, you know? And as I was watching that, I went back to work with these thoughts and that stuff in my head, and watching my father and his sisters, you know, weeping over this man and caressing him and saying things to him. And then I go to fucking work, and then people are just like beelining it for fucking products, throwing fits because we don't have chocolate covered pretzels, you know, and all this shit for their little fucking parties, and baking cakes and all. It's just all that fucking shit, man, that people feel like they have to goddamn do for these fucking holidays. It irritates me. It was pissing me off. I was just sitting there like, what the fuck, dude? This matters? You know. And people having snippy little attitudes and shit, and people being assholes about whatever. There's this one guy, he had a little head and like no teeth, and he was not much older than me, so I knew he was probably a meth head or some shit. And he had bottle returns. And he was what we call the service desk. No one was there because we're fucking swamped and they're running around. And he walked up to me, he's like, can you get someone at this here to help me? And I was like, I don't know, man. I'll see if I can find somebody with that attitude. Now I'm gonna walk. So fuck you. And so I just looked. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Just go to the registers. You can get your fucking. I didn't say that. I said you can get your bottle returns done there. And he's like, I don't got time for that. I need it done now. And I just looked at him and I just said, I have no control over this. And I just walked away. Dude, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, you want to play your games? Go ahead and play them by yourself. I'm not even going to watch you. That was just one thing. It's just people get weird. Like, I get you're having a bad day, but go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? You can have it by yourself. I'll be nice and help you out if you're not a piece of shit. Don't throw your bullshit on other people that have nothing to do with it. Do you know what I'm saying? That happens so much in retail. You'd be surprised when you come in with your little fucking attitude and you throw it at someone else and they have nothing to do with it. Like, it's such weird shit, man. People are fucking weird like that. But also they're incredibly stressed out because, God fucking forbid, we don't have the fruit because they need to make a fruit cake. Or whatever the fuck it is, you know. Just some bullshit. And so I'm just dealing with that. Just going around, and at this point I don't even pretend like I care, you know. Someone throws an attitude, I just tell them like, hey, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you're just gonna feel this way apparently. This is what you want, I guess. And I would come home and just think about all this shit. Just be like, what the fuck is this? You know, and you know me, my anger is going towards Christianity because this is a Catholic fucking holiday and all this stupid fucking shit. And, you know, Thanksgiving's another bullshit time. It's just, I'm thinking like all this fake, phony shit of all these holidays that we have to fucking spend, and then they're hijacked by capitalism, so it's all about buying stuff and getting stuff and all this just absolute bullshit. I'm just irritated with the world. I'm just so irritated. The games people play. And here's the fucking kicker. The entire time is Christmas music that has been playing since December 1st. They waited. They waited. Sometimes they can't, like, as soon as Thanksgiving's over, they gotta get that fucking Christmas music on. And I gotta tell you, man, there's like what? At most 25 to 30 Christmas songs. And then, seemingly, and you got to hear everyone's fucking version of Silent Night, or Jingle Bells, or God, I don't even know anymore, some other goddamn Christmas song. That's like fucking torture. It's like being irritated, realizing that none of this matters, trying your best to just be okay, and there's this fucking psychological torture going on above you of this Christmas music that's driving me fucking insane. I did not start hating Christian holidays because it was cool or because I had a lot of doubt and this and that. It was actually because of this job has made me hate holidays. I despise it. I truly despise holidays. And it's insanity. 8 hours a day of hearing the same fucking music over and over and over and over. And people asking the same fucking question over and over and over. Where are the aluminum pans? Do you know where those pans are? That they're not like pans. They're like aluminum pans. Do you know like where these? They're a baking sheet, but they're not made of metal. They're made of aluminum. Like this every fucking day. And it says right on the goddamn sign. I always have to like point it, be like, see that sign right there? It says aluminum foil pans. That's just one. That's just one, right? That's one fucking object in a store that people can't manage to find. No one can. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised about how people are in the grocery store. One thing that there are two things that you can count on. One, people will always give up right before they almost found it. You don't know how many times someone walks up to me and says, I can't find your olives. I don't know where they are. I went through the whole store. And I'm always like, right behind you. And they're like, oh, the last place. That one, or if it was a snake, it would have bit me. That kind of fucking shit. So it's made in my mind this speculation of mankind that like people give up right before the end. They always do. They almost finish the job and they always give right up, right there at the end. And they just like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm like, actually, you were almost done. Walk 2 more fucking feet and it's right behind you. And it's always like that. I'm kind of telling you all this shit to help paint a picture. It took me this fucking long to paint this picture. I want you to be in the same headspace of being fucking annoyed with people and their dumbass shit. We're not even going to get into the parking lot shenanigans of how people walk in a fucking parking lot, how they park their fucking cars, how they wait for a car to pull out even though there's a line behind them because they want to be that close to the store. They need to be. We're going to ignore that part. We're also going to ignore the way people walk around in a fucking store, where we push our cart in the middle of an aisle and then stop it and stand next to it and look at our little fucking things and block a bunch, and just clueless that there's people all around you that you're blocking. We're going to ignore that too. We're just going to say those two things happen and you would be irritated by it too. We're also going to ignore the way other employees act because they're all having a little pissy fit day and a bad time. We'll ignore that too. My idea here is I wanted to paint the picture of how fucking irritated and how irritated I get from just living in this idea that people like to fucking have of their little religious shit. When people believe all of this shit and they have their ideas what religion is and who's got the rightest God and who's got the best, philosophy of like, I don't know, who's president and what their administration should do. And when people do that shit on top of it, they all know, right? And you're dealing with that shit, then someone's got to like tell you like whose God is right. Whose concept of like, this religion is the most rightest of all the religions, and here's the reasons why, and yours is false because of, and all this stupid shit. And people like to tell you that Jesus Christ is this, and he's that, and the other thing. And they like to tell you, you know, this president's better than that one, but whatever one you fucking believe, it's just stupid people shit. I'll throw that in the mix too, of like just why I feel irritated. I come out of it. And you see what I've been doing here. You see that I've been kind of trying to work at finding myself. I've been trying to strip myself of all of that shit that I'm telling you about. I'm trying to make that all go away and say, that's not me. I'm not that fucking person. I don't want to hear their shit. I don't believe their shit, their religions, their speculations. I don't believe any of their things. I'm done with them. So I walked away from all of that. Though I'm faced with it, I have to be in the middle of a storm of some fucking holiday that I hate because that's all what they want. Right? And I'm not going to be mean. Someone says Happy Christmas to me, I'm not going to fuck your Christmas. You know, I'll be like, yeah, Happy Christmas. It's too much to go into there. So, I've been walking away from all that. And I'm being tested daily by going back to work. Like, oh, you want to walk away from society and all that? We're going to put you in the middle of the fucking shit. How much are you willing to walk away from all this and try to feng shui it out of your mind? Can you even do that? When every single day you're forced and being pulled and pulled and pulled? Can you do this? So far, successfully, yes. And I must say, the things that I felt about it not only are very prevalent on these videos here, but I'll kind of go into it a little bit right now. I have been, when I come home, I drive into the park where I live, and I pull into my house, turn my truck off, get out, walk by, big window from the living room, I look and I see the kitties all looking at me happily. I come inside, shut the door behind me, walk in, take off my boots. All the kitties are just there looking up at me. And it's quiet in here. It's peaceful. It's nice. I don't have any stupid iconography that doesn't mean anything to me. All around my house. You know, me and my wife don't talk about politics or religion or, I don't know, man. Whatever. I don't even still know who's president yet. No one's told me yet. I'm assuming it's Trump because I'm going to assume. But no one's even told me yet. So it's like, it feels good to be away from it because we've built this environment to be separate from that fucking world. You have to live in it, man. You have to play the game. It does have its benefits. As in, I don't have to go hunting for food. I don't have to fend off goddamn bandits on the highway. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's positives to it, and I like those ones. So I keep my mouth shut. Keep it except for these videos, of course. You're the only people that I really tell about this. No one else knows that I feel this way at all, you know? But I come into this office to do work. And as you know, I've been working on two things simultaneously. One, book 2 and its draft that I'm really in the middle of. And something I just started today. Man, this is going to be a really long video. But fuck it, who gives a shit? Christmas gift, yeah? The thing I'm working on today is I finally started the journey of Dove as he went into the world tree. Now, everything I just told you has kind of informed the writing session. Separating myself from man and their thought forms, and death, and just frustration with my placement in this. That's kind of informed this writing session. And as I lay in here, I start typing. It's become vastly clear to me, Dove, his frustrations and what he has to do in order to aid the process of freeing these AOC. But I wanted him to be met with something that this is the last thing that kind of came up with some people. I want him to be met with all of that which hides inside of himself. You know, when you're doing something or you're doing some speculative thoughts on what you think this shit might be or how the mind works or whatever it is, and all of a sudden you start to find some synchronicities, and a YouTuber that you like randomly uploads a video that's kind of on the topic of what you're doing, and not only does it do that, but it also like carbon copies tells you like, oh, all the things that you thought, you go. Same. It feels really good. And I have this this favorite YouTuber, and he put a video out about kind of like consciousness and thought forms, egregores, and shit like that. Not only does it sound like my book, but it gave me hope. And I had this conversation with someone else about speculating on what our consciousness is and where does it truly come from, and what if it's not necessarily ours, but it's working through us, and there's the other beings, and you know, all this shit. And it works. Perfect for the fucking book. I watch the video and I say, that's what we're already goddamn doing. We're in this shit. The consciousness that rises within us is an amalgamation of separate, you could call them entities, beings, whatever you want to call them. They're informed by the thought forms we create on man, but also ones above us. The ones above us, you could think of every thought you have, every feeling, every emotion or spirit as some separate entity working through you. Though they're using you as kind of like a foundation or a hardware to their software in some sense. That's very overly simplifying it, because it would take me way too fucking long to tell you what I really think. But suffice to say, as I've been pondering it in that way, I said, that's the fucking book. So as Dove enters into this, I'm calling it the world tree, he will be met with what he feels like he's being accosted in his own mind by a bunch of strange entities that are all telling him things that he doesn't know how to feel about. And if you remember the series, he's like, oh, something stole half of my mind because I was trying to create consciousness, and something jumped into it, and that's half my mind stolen. And he's going to slowly be faced with, nope, dumb fuck, it was always you, it's all you. Those things, those alien consciousnesses or beings inside of you are all of you. Dipshit, it's not separate, it's you. Even the dark ones. And so when he's met with that concept, and he's being told, yeah, you know, inside of you is the multitude of beings, but they are all you. This is how you really feel. It's a play on the idea of when you really start to look within yourself, you start to notice how you really feel about fucking things. You know how that time you just walked away from ideas, you're like, yeah, you know, I believed in this thing, whatever the fuck it was, some idea of mankind. I believed in it, but then I realized that I don't want it anymore. I walked away from it. Whether it be a political idea, a cultural thing, a race thing, whatever. Some fucking thing that you do. You walked away from it because for the first time in your life, you listened to yourself and you thought, fuck that. I'm not going to just be someone's pawn. Well, that's kind of what happens when you start listening to yourself. You start to realize what you want. Not what everyone's telling you to want. Not what your religion's telling you. Or your culture. Or your community. Or whoever. They all want you to do this fucking thing that's about whatever they think is right and wrong. And you finally said, fuck this. What do I think is right and wrong? And that's kind of the idea of going inward. And that's what these multitude of beings represent in the mythology. It's all of the confliction that you have about whatever is you're facing. And you're coming to terms with it, and you're finding a way to define yourself within it, to either stay and to kind of figure it out and fix it, or to leave it, whatever it happens to be that is in your life that you're unsure about. We all face that, and that's the point of journeying inward. That's the descent into self. That's the being fragmented in the mythologies, you know, being eaten by the whale. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the famous one, right? Jonah and the whale. That's the idea of that. You go down into the darkness of your deep self, and there's a beast that comes out and eats you or rips you apart. And that you must find a way to become whole again within the waters of life, because you're going to be reborn, and to come out of the whale, or the dark waters, come out of the abyss, the labyrinth, out of the puzzle and into the new reality of yourself, of what you know around you, what you claim to know. And this is a cycle. It's cyclical. It's not like you do this one time and you're enlightened and you're all of a sudden Luke Skywalker, we're in black now. Like, no, it's a constant thing. It's not a one-time deal. And Dove is walking into this to be reborn with what he thinks he needs to do. Instead of following his brother because he always thought he needed to, when the doubt was created and he went inside and he found the deepest part of himself, he was told the truth of who he really is, and he was realizing, he came to terms with, he needs to do something that may hurt his brother, but it may save a race of people. I'm walking away from the religion that is my family, in this case because they're Titans. I'm choosing to save a people instead, even if it's saving them from everything I love. That is the thing that I feel I've learned in all of this. And all that shit I fucking told you about the grocery store, you know, all the shit I told you about people and their goddamn thoughts and their attitudes and all of this, that's my shit, man. My whole life. I got my family who's like tragic all the time and everyone's fucking just upset and it's just no one's got money, we're so broke and everything. It's always so fucking horrible for them and I'm tired of hearing it. And I'm tired of fucking watching everyone struggle. I'm tired of watching the fucking world just pretend like everything matters that they think matters. Democracy's not gonna fucking save you, man. You are. Your fucking beliefs on religion won't save you. You have to save yourself. I'm sure, man, I'm sure. So, when Dove walks away from everything he knew and is reborn, you're alone. That's it. You don't have anyone that you can like kind of lean on, like, hey, like, what do I do here? Like, since I'm a new person, I don't know what to do now. They're gonna be like, I don't fucking know. Do the old thing. They don't know how to help you, so you're alone in this fucking crazy fucking world. And that's kind of the mirror of how I've been feeling. Since I've been walking away from all of the bullshit, I'm sitting here by myself going like, what the fuck do I do about all this? If I feel this way, what am I supposed to do? Blow my brains out? I've become so nihilistic. I've lost the point of living. Should I just blow my brains out? I don't know. That seems like a lot of work. I gotta get a gun. I gotta lie to them, pretending like, well, I just want self-defense. You know, I'm not gonna play that game. I could go and to a friend's house that has a gun and be like, can I look at it real quick? Yeah. That'd be so fucked. But I would never do that because I don't see the point in blowing my brains out, you know? I'm not suicidal like that. I just don't have a will to live. And then it dawned on me. Well, you don't have a will to live other people's lives, dumb shit. You need to learn to have the will to live your life. And they will try their best to bring you back to where they think you belong. They always will. And that's okay. That's all they know. You have to find the will to transcend above it. And you need to find the way out through your writing so you can turn around and save them from their fucking disaster. And that's when it became clear to me of my objective. To write this, to do this fucking work, because I think I can help the people I care about get out of the nightmare that they may be in. But I need to save myself first. And I think that's that. Because I don't want to use all of my momentum. I have to get writing again. But I hope that it helped inform what our objective will be. We have a lot to do, and if I'm going to continue the story of Dove, I need to put all of my attention into this, because it's very difficult. It's been such a difficult journey to come out of all this. But it will be done, and it will be done very soon. And so let me get back to writing, and then hopefully I can get that goddamn Dove video out sooner than later. But we'll see.